fine as well. John is a new CPO board member after the last elections. Tate, Kelsey, Andy, thanks for throwing your names in the hat, and thanks for running extremely efficient and productive campaigns to get yourself elected. Well done. I probably should run around and just introduce everybody. Katie Wilson, you want to start? On my screen, you're up at the top.
Sure. My name is Katie Wilson. I work for Clackamas County in Public and Government Affairs, and my job is to be the community engagement liaison for the community. That includes the Hamlet program. So if you're new to the Hamlet, you can reach out to me for anything at the county at all if you need support, but specifically if you need anything for the Hamlet or the CPO, or you have any questions about engagement, I am your contact. And during COVID, I've been fielding questions about everything. So I really can be your girl for just about anything county related.
I don't, does everybody look at the same screen? I mean, if I see me,
No.
everybody's different. Okay, well, on my screen, I'm next, so I'll go. I'm Bill Mart. I'm the chair this year. Been here for, I don't know, 40 plus years. Glad to be doing this. Glad to be working with the people that I have been over the last, I guess, 6 years, maybe 5 or 6 years this time. And thanks for all of you for coming. Amy Herman.
Hi, I'm Amy Herman. I'm with Resolution Services in Clackamas County. We're a small department that provides mediation and facilitation services. I have been with the county for almost 23 years, and my role has changed over time, but I worked in the community mediation program for quite a long time. And we provide neighbor-to-neighbor mediation, plus a lot of other things. The department also does family law mediation, workplace mediation, things like that. So I'm here today to help support you. And I'm gonna walk you through a bunch of stuff today, but I do want to say, Bill, 3 hours on Zoom's a long time. So we'll probably take at least one break, maybe 2 quick ones. So if you can kind of hold your break to maybe 5 minutes, but at least we get away from the screen, stretch out and get something else, take care of our own needs for a little bit. So that's who I am, and I'll say more when we get started. Thanks.
Well, and a couple of things she didn't say. She was there at the beginning when we created the Hamlet out of the contentious environment that needed a Hamlet. So she helped put together the MOU. She's done, I think, every one of our retreats or every one that I've been involved in since. And when she started, although this doesn't have anything to do with conflict resolution was a big part of what Amy did for us. So yeah, been a huge resource for us in the Hamlet, and specifically the board and the organization going forward. Rich.
Hi, Rich Fiala, currently vice chair. Longtime resident. Century Farm, family's been here since 1906, and happy to serve and happy that we've got new faces, and appreciate Amy showing and Katie showing today, and away we go. And by the way, Bill, we started 4 minutes late.
Oh. Thank you. Katie Kreider.
Oh.
Good morning. I'm Katie Kreider. I'm starting my second term as a board member for 5 Acres and Under is what I'm representing. We've lived in the Hamlet for 4 years now, although I pretty much grew up across the street from where we live now, where I kept my horse. I was kind of a barn rat and rode every day and felt like that was my second home. So anyway, I love this area, and happy to be serving a second term.
Tate.
Yeah, Tate Morgan. Holy smokes, that was louder than I thought it was going to be. Basically, I grew up at the Munson household from the time I was like in the 5th grade. So down there off of Wisteria. Moved here, and bought our 5 acres about 3 years ago now, I think, and just love the area and wanted to, grew up running around causing trouble with Bill's sons at Westland High School, and so the opportunity to sit on this board and make sure we keep this place as cool as it's always been is a pleasure.
Patty? Thanks, Tate.
Yeah, hi, I'm Patty Mamula, and we've lived here, I think it's about 25 years. I'm also on my 2nd term on the board, and like Katie, I'm really happy to be serving. I just realized there's a lot of us in what we call the Vineland neighborhood. There's me, Bill, Katie, Kelsey, Andy, and Tate. We're heavily represented here.
Yeah. Kelsey.
Hi, everybody. I'm new to the area. We moved here probably about a year and a half ago now. And yeah, like Patty said, I live on that Sweetbriar stretch, and I've pretty much met everybody because we've got a long driveway walking down the street. Everybody's been so nice and friendly. We just really love the area. And so I'm really honored and happy to be joining you guys this year, and hope I can be helpful.
I'm sure you will be. Thank you. Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane Comer, representing Johnson Road with the Fialas. Okay, there's 2 of us, right? Go team. I'm a teacher out in Sherwood. I've been on the board. This is my 2nd year now on the board. My kids and I moved to the Hamlet about 7 years ago to slow down, and realized it's got nothing to do with slowing down, but we're having fun.
Thank you. Carolyn?
Hi, I'm Caroline. I am Jane's daughter. My title is Student Liaison, and I am here as a youth voice in Hamlet. So, yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks. Andy?
Hey, my name's Andy Munson. I've been out here for 34 of my 39 years, moving from Laurel Street over in Lake Oswego when I was 5. Yeah, just kind of excited to get involved with the Hamlet and be on the board to keep it rural out here and keep it how we have always been able to enjoy it. So excited to work with y'all.
Thanks, Andy. Bill Long.
Hi, I'm Bill Long, and it's my first year on the board. I wanted to be on the water, and I couldn't understand why anyone would want to buy a house in Lake Oswego on the lake with the big boulders in the basement for $21,000. I've been on the Tualatin since '62, and my triplets were born in '63. So we've grown up around here when Walker's store was a gas station, tavern, and country store. And my kids watched it burn down from their bedroom windows. We're right across from it. But I've been out here, I got a lot of whiskers. I joined the board because I was curious. And I felt I should do something other than the Mossy Bray Water Board. And playing golf with Bill, I volunteered to be a treasurer. And I'm a terrible treasurer, but we're getting by. Other than that, howdy.
Hey, Bill, this is Rich. With the time you've been here, you do officially qualify as an old timer, okay?
Oh, okay. It suits my personality, I think. Yeah.
Len Shaw.
I want to hear about Rivers. I want to hear about Rivers. Have her tell us about her Christmas presents.
that comes later. Len Shawver.
That would be delightful.
Yourself,
I heard Len a minute ago.
Len.
Unmute yourself, Len.
Okay, not happening. John, welcome. John McCabe is on here too.
Okay, I'm only on the phone.
Yeah, I got it. We got it. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. I'm not up as far as Rich's years, but I live next door to my in-laws, the Micans, and they also have a century farm. They've been here since 1919, and we've been in the Stafford CPO for over 20 years. And I'm more active this time with the CPO because when the Hamlet was created, where we're located, we're not in the Hamlet, but we're in the CPO.
Right. Well, that may change going forward. Thanks for coming on, John. Len.
You're welcome.
Len, do you read me, Len? Okay. Well, you can't. You can bring them to water, but you can't make them drink. Okay, we're going to move on. If Len pops in, he can introduce himself because he truly has a lot of miles in the area as well. So for you new members, there's a county orientation. They're still doing that, right, Katie Wilson?
Yeah, we have do-it-yourself training PowerPoint that I'll send out, and I'll send it to everyone because sometimes a refresher is nice, but it shouldn't take you more than 30 minutes to go through, and we have county council as a contact if there's any questions. It mainly just goes over best practices for community meetings, Robert's rules, and just the essentials for the Hamlet program that you need to know in order to be a board member. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to our county council who coordinates all of those rules and trainings.
And on that note, and I don't know that this is the same as it has been in the past, but to be able to vote at a board meeting, I think you're supposed to have taken the orientation. I think that's the motivation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you guys have all had a chance to look at the agenda. I'm going to assume, unless there's a bunch of waving of hands or beating on the table, that you're going to accept the agenda. I just didn't want to force it down your throat and find out that that we missed something dramatic. Is there anything that anybody wants to add at this point? Okay, that was crickets right there. So, bylaws, they're on the website or were. I haven't looked lately, but I can't imagine that they've gone anywhere. It'd be good for all of us actually to look through those and just to have a reference. The budget, Bill Long put that together. I sent a revised copy over to Katie this morning. I don't know if Bill had sent what the discussions that we had over, but one way or the other, if Katie, if you'd put that up on the screen so people can see the budget, and we can, I don't think we can probably take a vote on the budget in this meeting because it's not a public meeting, but at least you can see it. Can you throw that
Sure.
up there?
Yeah, hold on just a sec.
Yeah, and if you struggle with like trying to get something on the screen, we'll just go get Tate's kids and they'll do it for us. Isn't that right, Tate? Okay, there we go. So Bill Long, can you see that? Yeah. I mean, that's basically what you put together. I mean, we can certainly have discussions on that either outside or at a board meeting, but I think we have to vote on it and okay it at a board meeting. The only thing I changed was I just boosted the two retreats, and you should know this is not just the retreat for the year. This is the first half of the year, or the retreat. It's the planning for the whole year, but it's not the only retreat. We're going to try and do one sometime in late June, or at least in the early part of the summer, so that we kind of catch up with where we are and have a way to reconnect as to our progress with what we come out of the day with. And it's a little more expensive than what you had in there, Bill. So I just boosted that, I think, by $125, and it all looked good to me. So anyway, we can send that all to you so you can look at it and scrutinize it. And we're probably not going to get all the money that we're going to ask for, but this is pretty bare bones from our perspective, and hopefully we'll get close to it. I miss anything, Bill?
Well, I just wanted to add that I think Rich and Patty have been really good about submitting expenses as they come along. I just took mostly old expenses and tried to eliminate anything like our voting on the vision and et cetera. But the county would like to give us as much as we can, but it's a constrained budget, and they have to submit a budget by at least the 15th of February. So the sooner we can finalize this, the better it would help the two people that are really our best advocates. So please email me with anything additional that I may have missed, because I just did the best I could with what I had over here. Email me if you've got some expenses that we should let the county know about. Doesn't mean that they're going to be able to afford us, but we should give them our best estimates.
Thanks, Bill. So on that point, which brings up, we've got two board members that have left, and we put together, Katie Kreider put together some cards, which you guys are supposed to swing down. I think some of you have done that, but not all. So get down to Fiala's maybe in the next few days, so I can hand off the gift cards and the wine. There's a bottle of wine for both Jana and John, Jana Lombardi and John Keith, and just sign the card. Don't forget. Anyway, I thought this was an opportunity, because that's also there's going to be a little bit of expense come off of that. So the overview for today's session, essentially the PowerPoint, which is going to come a little bit later, is for us to get 5 action items out of the Portland State Masters of Urban Planning program, and get that into into play. There's a fair amount of material there to cover. If you folks have looked through the attachment that was sent to you, we'll try to go as fast and as efficiently as we can. But I think the thing that we should look at right now, which is moving on to item 2, or Roman numeral 2, is what we accomplished from the 2020 goals and the progress that was made. There's an attachment that I sent, which was basically the minutes of that meeting. But it melts down to the fact that what our goal was out of last year's retreat was to get a new CVP through the passed on to the voters and okayed. And we were going to do that with 2 town halls in February and March, which we did have. We were then going to vote in April, which we did not have. And that was obviously because of the coronavirus, or the COVID restrictions. We got a lot of volunteers to sign up. Some of those we've reached out to, particularly when we're trying to get people to vote on this last election. We'll go back and re-engage with them as we get our committees set up again this year, to hopefully get more outside help, which in my mind is a very important goal for us going forward. But we did succeed in the CVP. We should feel very, very good about that. I know I do. I know that everybody had a hand in that, and it was successful. So I don't know if Katie sent this to everybody, but I want to say there were 256 votes, Hamlet votes, or I think another 30 plus votes, CPO votes. And of those 256, 220, 224 were a thumbs up for the CVP, which was something just shy of 90%. And that's pretty outstanding. We would have probably all liked to see more people vote, but given the climate and the times and everything, and the fact that we'd never had a online vote before, I think we did quite well. The board also was committed to supporting the Family Fest and making that another success. And Katie Kreider was our chair of that committee, but it became pretty evident probably by April that just wasn't going to be realistic. I think we waited a little later in the year to cancel it, but we didn't have any expenses as a result. And the other thing that we chose to focus on was regeneration of the CPO. Len had been we had two folks as kind of co-chairs, but Walt retired a couple of years ago. And so Len had been doing it for at least the last 2, maybe 3 years on his own. And our goal was to get some more board members, and we did that. John McCabe is proof positive that was a success. Randy Yamada and Mitch Jones were all also involved in helping support that. So going forward, it isn't going to be just all on Len's shoulders, and not that he hasn't done a great job, but yeah, the model isn't supposed to be for one person to have to carry that pack, although that's the way it's been in the past a lot. So we were pretty successful. I mean, again, the Family Fest would have gone off had we not encountered the limitations. We're going to move on to.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Rich had a question.
Oh, well, I guess if I look up, I'd know that, huh? Yeah, Rich.
Just a quick note, Bill, when we talk about the cards available, people should just come down other than late hours. And if nobody's in the building, the cards are on the front counter. Please feel that you can come in and sign them at will. They're sitting there either in an envelope or on top of the envelopes. So just wanted to put that in so people could come down. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. So we have some kind of, I guess, more housekeeping or internal workings that we need to deal with. Carolyn, as we had mentioned, is or she had mentioned, is our student liaison. So she's going to do two things. She's going to bring us what a student, a young person living in the area's perspective is, and we can also send her out to gather information, as I understand it, and then as well. She's going to be, able to bring students to events that are of significance. In other words, help educate students like herself that would be interested in being involved in the future or at the moment as students. So, anything you want to add to that, Carolyn?
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about what I can do to involve youth in the community, and I have a couple of ideas. So one of the things that I was thinking about is at the Family Fest in 2019, there were student volunteers that came and helped out. So what I was thinking is not only would that hopefully continue if we have the Family Fest, but going to my one of the counselors in my school and setting up volunteer opportunities for students at my high school. Things like helping, moving irrigation pipes, helping fixing fences, et cetera, et cetera. Just, a couple hours for a day or two, to help you guys out, help you farmers out, The other thing that I was thinking about was that photo contest. I think Rich Fiala gave me the idea for that. And so people all from the Hamlet submit photos, for a competition. And then at the end of not really end of the year, but by the Family Fest, we could put together a calendar. And so I have a little visual example here. So this is my chicken calendar. And what I was thinking was there'd be, you know, a cover page, and it would be, you know, of the Hamlet and stuff, you know, introduce us. And then on this little inside page where there's like a little calendar from the previous year, we do like older photos up here, and then like a brief description of like the history of the Hamlet. And then on, you know, like January, there'd be a picture, and then like a little blurb, like up on the top bar here, of like a quote from a youth member in the Hamlet saying like why they like living here, you know, what it's meant to them to be here. Yeah.
That's fantastic. What a great idea. Yeah, and to put that at the fest, not only will it get into a lot of people's hands, but we can also sell, if should we ever get to have board meetings in person again, but we can also sell them, or however we're going to put them out into the public, have them available.
Rich had a question.
Yeah.
Well, you just said it, Bill. I was going to suggest that we do have a board member that could probably get that printed up at a very inexpensive rate, Bill Long. And in addition, then it could be a fundraising tool that could go not only just to the Hamlet, but to continuing student liaison efforts. So, yes.
Good stuff.
Good fundraiser.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rich. Okay, Carolyn, anything else?
Just kind of adding on to the volunteer thing, what I do is I'd be kind of like the middle person. People would go to my counselor and say, hey, this looks like fun. And then the counselor would give me my contact info, and then I'd see who needs help and then get back to them, just, you know, to make that.
So and I think it's in Lake Ridge and maybe Wilsonville. It's a resource. I don't know if it's a resource counselor. It's a resource person that we've had contact with. Is that the equivalent of who that would be at Westland?
It's a college career counselor.
Ah.
And yeah, they have them. We have one at Westland.
Great. Yeah. No, that sounds great. Thanks a lot. Those are great ideas. And as we get our goals too, I think there'll probably be definitely places for you to fit in around that as well. Okay, so monthly meetings. You'll see that we'll have this pop up here and there today, but one of the things that we're trying to value, and it's in our CVP, is our heritage. And Rick Cook, who's been working with I think it's their information gathering person, Mark, from the Lake Oswego Heritage Foundation, suggested that we have a short, maybe a 2-minute blurb at each of our community meetings when they start, that gives some bit of background or information that relates specifically to the Hamlet. And I wanted to pass that on to you folks and see if that sounded like something that you would think would be of value. I think the community meeting is probably the best attended, so that's why I was thinking that would be the place, but it could be someplace else in the meeting, in our monthly meetings as well. And the way Rick talked is it wouldn't be one of us necessarily that would have to give that information, although we certainly could, but he thought Mark would be willing to do that, or he could. So do you see any downside to that, anybody?
No, I think I would just encourage, if we do it, to have it at the first part of the meeting, because that's when we have the most people there.
Yeah, okay. Thanks,
I
Patty.
totally agree with you, Patty. I think opening by looking back, I love it. I love that idea. I think people will too.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, we've got a meeting coming up here in February, which has got a pretty wide open community agenda on it right now. But but
I suggest, hey, Bill, I suggest that we get Mark, I can't think of Mark's last name, to do at least the first one, because
Sure.
he has a tremendous amount of research and in-depth knowledge already about certainly what we would consider the northern part of the hamlet, Stafford Road above Azalea area. And why not start off with somebody who's got tons of information, and
Right.
we can see how that, not that it should be a one time only, I agree, going forward, but let him get started. He talks in front of crowds regularly. It could
Sure.
encourage someone in the listening crowd to step up and give some information about what they know.
Yeah,
That's all.
no, that'd be great. I mean,
What is Mark's last name?
I think it's Brown. And Bill was correct. He's with the Lake Oswego Heritage House. And so he has done a tremendous amount of research on Lake Oswego, but a lot of the rural out here, you know, the original people that sat down with the, not land grants, but with the, anyway, you know, the original 150 acres stuff. And he's done work on the Widdens, the Cooks, go down the list. And he's looking to expand. He's working on the Wonkers right now.
thanks, Rich. Okay, one other thing on this list is we've had space to send in the committee updates, which the committees haven't been real active since the coronavirus. We kind of put everything in flux. Do you want to keep doing that, or do you want to do it a different way? And I mean, this isn't something you have to decide today. It's just, we could have a discussion, you know, a brief discussion here versus in a public venue. If people think that's still a good idea, it's just that we haven't been taking advantage of it. So, and that isn't a function of anything other than we just haven't had organized. A lot's been happening within the committees. They just haven't been happening as a committee. It's been individuals picking up the ball and running. So what's anybody's take on that? Katie Kreider.
My one comment is today an appropriate time to kind of reevaluate or at least review the lists of committees? Because I wonder if some of our priorities might have shifted, and there might be new committees based on what folks are interested in or what this year might present to us as a higher priority than, let's say, you know, I know I think one of them was wildlife and natural resources, for example. That's always a high priority, but I just wonder if we want to take a look at what our current committees are, you know, and I don't know if that's on the agenda for today.
Yeah, and that I think that'll show up, Katie, under it's Roman numeral 5, board alignment, and that's right after we go through the PowerPoint. So, so we're going to kind of work through the committees and the jobs that we need to get people in place to do. But that's a good point. Somebody else had their hand up, I thought.
I did, but I took it down, Bill.
Okay. All right. Well, good on me. So if I miss you next time, just know that I was paying attention. Let's see what else. Volunteer opportunities for board members outside the hamlet. That's a Katie Kreider suggestion. You want to throw out to the folks what you were thinking there, Katie?
Well, sure. As you had mentioned, unfortunately, with the pandemic, we had to cancel the Family Fest last year, and very unlikely we will be able to have it this year. In fact, I guess we have already said that we aren't. So thinking about what could we do in lieu of that, and for me, seems to me that there's lots of opportunities within the hamlet and right outside the hamlet to represent the Stafford hamlet as community members or as a group. For example, I saw a notification at Lisher Farm that they're looking for volunteers to help with tree planting in the grove. And I thought, how cool would that be if, you know, we show up with our Hamletier t-shirts and, you know, represent the hamlet, and, you know, just as an outreach opportunity, if we can't do the Family Fest, which is our primary source of outreach to the community, let us be seen as a group among the community. Also, Solve has regular Ivy polls and other types of events down at Marius Young Park, you know, and do some outreach so that, you know, next time we put up signs that say vote for your board members, people will know, oh, the Stafford Hamlet. Yeah, I saw them over at the park volunteering. Anyway, that's just a food for thought. I was wondering, can we do more micro scale ways of outreach this year? And as opposed to a big family fest, which we can't do. It just seems like there's lots of opportunities, and we could talk about that again later and brainstorm. And last year, Patty and I were talking about the idea of doing a mini farmer's market, the Hamlet harvest or something. You know, are there ways that we can do something like that in a smaller way that's COVID friendly and safe?
Sure.
Katie, that's great. Can I just add one thing about the planting that's going on at Lusher Farm? That's going to be on, I believe, Saturday, the 7th of February. And I do know that they're still looking for volunteers. So I believe you can sign up through the Friends of Lusher Farm. Mm-hmm. And I think they've got a website.
I'll share the link with the group. Actually, I think I already did. And I know Bill Long had some interest, but it would be nice to have, you know,
sure.
A few people.
That's
a comment if I could. We used to have, or thought we had anyhow, a road cleanup agenda item somewhere, and I haven't heard about that for quite a while. So that would be another thing we could put on that list.
Sure.
Right. And everyone needs to stop by Fiala Farms and get their Stafford Hamlet Family Fest Hamletier, or maybe Hamletier t-shirt, but maybe we need to think about doing some other branded, maybe a hat or some other kind of Hamlet branded clothing items that we can wear out in the community.
So Katie, are those t-shirts here?
I think they're in a box from Bin Your Barn.
Well, there are some things that Jane has.
Okay.
So let us confirm that before you show up and start asking me or my brother, who would have no clue, where those t-shirts are and where's mine. So hold on that, but I like the thought, and we can get rid of those t-shirts.
I think there's only XXL left, so they're like dresses. Or good sleep shirts or something. Anyway.
Great. Thanks, Katie.
That's all I got.
Okay.
I do need XL.
So I think the next thing we're supposed to jump into here is the, wow, I can't believe that we actually made up the time that we lost at the beginning. Miracles never cease. This is the PowerPoint. This is so,
Can I suggest, Bill, real quick? I think we've all been drinking coffee and kind of getting settled in. How about if we take just a quick break, like 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll jump into the PowerPoint, which is going to take a while. And then after that, maybe another real quick break before we get into the committee assignments. Okay, so what time is it now? It's 9:42. So let's try and shoot for being back here at about, what, 9:47? Bill, you have to unmute.
Just so you know, we're taking names. So just because you showed up now, you got to show up after the 3 or 5 minute break here too. Okay, understood? Good talk. All right.
All right.
See you guys in a few minutes.
See you in just a couple minutes. Thanks.
Okay, you want to take it, Amy?
Okay, great. I think, Kate, am I echoing? I wonder what's going on. That's not good. It wasn't happening before.
Sounds a little better now, Amy.
Better now. Okay, great. All right, so welcome everybody. We're going to do this PowerPoint slideshow right now, and I'm going to walk you through it. I did not create it. However, Bill has told me that it was built by one of your former board members, and there's a lot of information in here that relates to the PSU study. So let's when Katie gets that up, we'll start going through the slides, and part of it's overview and just framing what your work might look like for the year. And then
Am I sharing this or is Katie Kreider? I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm doing it. Okay. I will pay attention. Okay.
and as we use this, then it'll be, you know, something of a template for you to look at. It doesn't dictate what you're going to do this year, but it guides you in making decisions about how you're going to use your own time and your own resources to accomplish whatever goals you set in front of yourselves this year. So as we go through it, just be thinking about what you think is possible this year for this particular board and what you'd like to commit to. Because it's really up to you to determine what that's going to look like. So there's going to be, I'm just going to, oh, great. Thank you, Katie.
Yeah, no problem.
So now I'm trying to think, was the board member John?
Yeah, John Keith and John, I mean, again, I think I mentioned this earlier, John and Jana both are leading the board. John put this together knowing full well that he wouldn't be attending this, but asked me if there was something that he could do because he was finding himself with enough time to help out still. And this thing is huge. I mean, I can't imagine how much time it would have taken somebody like myself to put all the PSU pieces together and then apply it to our CBP, but a long time. And it wouldn't have looked like this even then. So yeah, we're very much blessed to have him put his energy and his ability to plan into this. Thanks.
So this is a really nice overview. It's also dense for a Zoom meeting. There's a lot of information here. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by it, but just kind of think about what you're seeing as we go through the slides. And as I said, at times we'll stop and have some conversation. So John called this the Stafford Hamlet offsite. And I have to say that I don't know exactly what the offsite reference is, but we're going to move through it and maybe it'll be apparent to the rest of you because you've been involved in this and I just have not. So Katie, you want to advance the slide?
Sorry, my isn't working.
So I know I've got the slide in front of me on a different screen. So I'm just going to start talking about what to expect today in terms of this PowerPoint. Questions to answer. As questions come up, please make sure that I am paying attention to you so that I can let you ask those questions as we go through the PowerPoint. I'm going to try and pay attention to the screen and you can just unmute yourself and holler at me if I don't see you. You can expect out of this slideshow, we're going to be connecting with the PSU reports, creating and selecting actions by CVP goals, and then align the committees with the community vision plan goals and establish 5 high priority actions for 2021. So that's a proposal. If you do 3 or if you do more than 5 or less than 5, it's up to you, but 5 high priority actions is the proposal. And then establish guidelines and needed resources to complete high priority actions. Next slide. So questions to answer. What's the body of work of the board and volunteers for this period of time? How do we prioritize and scale the body of work to available resources? And how do we hit that sweet spot? What do the residents want? What's feasible? Oops. That's okay, go ahead. And then what's the board willing to commit to, which is kind of what I was referring to earlier. So priority actions and initiatives. Thanks, Katie.
Hey, Amy,
Yeah.
On that last one, it took me a while to grasp. Sweet spot in my world is different than sweet spot. I mean, the term is the same, but it's different, and it took me a while to understand that. And what he's, I think, trying to say is, you know, we've got to estimate what the residents want. You know, we've got to obviously estimate what's feasible, and then we got to estimate what our, you know, capacity is. So it's guesswork, but somewhere in the middle of all that, per that sketch or that little drawing that he made, is kind of, you know, what.
Oops, you went back on mute, Bill.
What we're trying to arrive at, and to keep to keep us in the real world. I mean, obviously, a goal that's you know, that's the equivalent of breathing, that doesn't really count, and a goal that's unattainable is just a waste of energy. So it's in all three of those categories. It's kind of that's what we're after. Anyway, thanks.
Great, that's valuable clarification. Thank you, Bill. And I think this will come up as you work through your committee assignments. And some of this work will be done within the committees in order to make those determinations. You'll be, you know, surveying or asking the residents what they want. Feasibility will be really, what's it going to take, and do we have the ability and resources to do that? And then, is the board willing to commit to it? Is it the right size project for this particular time? Okay. So PSU project recap. I'm just going to go through and read through this with you. The Hamlet was chosen as a class project for the PSU Fall 2019 Master's Level Regional Planning class. 5 class reports were provided to the Hamlet. The Hamlet project was selected for master's students in the PSU Urban Studies and Planning major for a more extensive look at the Hamlet and the challenges during winter and spring of 2020. During that time, the project included 3 documents outlining a planning framework and decision approaches for the board to consider, an overview, scenarios, and strategies. In terms of the scenarios, they included topics like transportation development, expansion completion of I-205, committee and economic development, including incorporation of land into one or more of the surrounding cities. So I would imagine that's around annexation. And then the next one, annexation of housing development, incorporation of land into one or more of surrounding cities for housing development. Okay, next slide. And then PSU strategies that came out of this. It looks like there are 4 of them. Number 1, community vision action plan, describe actions that can advance the community goals and collective vision. Number 2, broad education campaign, educate about the area's heritage, importance, and potential. Number 3, long-term land use advocacy, develop long-term advocacy agenda to guide work and focus messaging. And then number 4, land conservation and access, facilitate and encourage partnerships that achieve conservation and access opportunities with the Hamlet. And under that are listed things like protecting open space, wildlife and riparian corridors, active agriculture, and increasing access to underserved populations. Okay, next slide. So the community vision plan goals includes safeguard clean air and groundwater, maintain our secure and serene environment, minimize additional traffic and infrastructure impacts, educate regional communities and Hamlet members about the area's heritage, importance, and potential, and expand small farm possibilities. Okay, next. So then what John did was relate the goals to the strategies. And so you can see what he's created here in this visual is a crosswalk from the goals to the strategies. And so for the goals that I just read on the previous slide, they're translating into the strategies of long-term land use advocacy and land conservation and access. Again, the same thing. And then broad education campaign, and again, land conservation and access. So those strategies relate to one another on each of those goals. Okay, next slide. And then possible actions by the CVP goals. Before we move too far into that, any questions so far about what we're seeing?
In looking at this, I don't know that I have a question. I just, the way John did this is he essentially took what we just voted on, the CVP, and he applied the tools that Portland State had given us. And as we go through this, he's going to, work us around how difficult it is to apply, or how much time or how much energy each of these things are going to take. But essentially, it's all going to come down to our five CVP goals and the 4 strategies or tools that the Portland State folks gave us to make that possible, or to give us, I guess, a means to achieving those 5 CVP goals. I don't know if that helps or confuses, but for me, that's the essence of this whole document, is until we get to the end and then we create our goals. But that's the background. So thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bill. Okay, so safeguarding the clean air and groundwater goal. The PSU strategy that was listed before, land conservation and access. They're listing things like promote open spaces and forest land, expand and enhance wildlife and riparian corridors, promote active agriculture, and increase public access to public spaces and farmland. Possible high-level actions related to this goal: Metro open space bond, engage 3 surrounding cities regarding parks and open space acquisition, engage coalition partners such as OAT and 1,000 Friends of Oregon. I don't know what OAT stands for, so somebody might want to clarify that. And then the last point, inventory interested landowners for conservation easement or leasing farmland. So that would just be identifying people who are interested in those areas. In those
OAT, I'm sorry, OAT stands for Oregon Agricultural Trust.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks.
And it's a vehicle through the Columbia Land Conservancy. Am I saying that right, Rich?
Land Trust.
Land Trust.
They're a separate entity under the umbrella.
Right, under that umbrella, and it's fairly new. But one of our speakers at our second town hall was Nellie McAdams, who now is heading up that effort. Yeah, so a little bit of background. Thanks.
Thank you. That's great. Okay, next one, maintain our secure and serene environment and minimize additional traffic and infrastructure impacts. It looks like these are combined. PSU strategy in terms of long-term land use advocacy include local efforts, city comprehensive plans and annexation, regional efforts, joint concept planning and metro activities, and then the state broader urban fringe issues. And then possible high-level actions associated with these goals are attend city, county, and metro meetings and advocate accountability to IGA agreements, actively pursue and engage in planning and transportation scoping efforts at all levels, and conduct outreach to other urban reserve communities to develop shared advocacy. Okay, next slide.
One more, just sidebar there, Amy. They combine, I think this is either 3 and 4 or 2 and 3 of the CVP. The reality is that the minimization of additional traffic and infrastructure impacts, if we do all the other things on our CVP list, that automatically happens. I mean, it's kind of like you could squeeze that in any place, but if you do the other 4, this is an outcome. And So it's kind of why it's been pressed together here, which makes as much sense as any place, but it isn't a standalone event. It's an outcome from all of these things occurring.
Okay, so some of the efforts that you're going to be engaged in are going to be accomplishing more than one goal.
Yeah, you're going to be accomplishing more than one goal. And when you read through this, you're going to find that a lot of the tools are applied, the same tools are applied to more than one goal. So
yeah,
it isn't that you don't have to do more heavy lifting with that same tool in some areas versus others, but the same tool applies, and that cross, the cross referencing that he did at I don't know, was it page 7 or slide 7, whatever it was. That kind of shows that when you're in the midst of this, having the awareness of how this is impacting everything else is going to make the effort putting into those tools even more substantial.
Okay, great, good point. Okay, the next one: educate regional communities and Hamlet members about area's heritage, importance, and potential. The PSU strategy is broaden education campaign, expand efforts to reach new audiences, demonstrate regional value for Stafford Hamlet, and build off of existing and work and drawing attention to long-standing issues. And possible high-level actions then include the following: Family Fest, partner with established and new entities to promote the Hamlet. Example is the Confederated Tribes. Gap analysis of existing collective partners and identify high priority new additions. Who else do you need to connect with? Legislative advocacy with 1,000 Friends and other politically active groups. Attend public meetings and provide feedback to surrounding city councils. Promote letters to the editor and other op-ed opportunities to communicate the Hamlet. And resolution of support from surrounding cities. So actually getting them to document that they have made a resolution to support the Hamlet in these areas. Okay, next slide. And then expand small farm possibilities. PS strategy listed land conservation and access as the tool. And some of the points underneath that: promote open spaces and forest land, expand and enhance the wildlife and riparian corridors, promote active agriculture, and increase access to public spaces and farmland. And they identified possible high-level actions as a Metro Open Space Bond, engage 3 surrounding cities regarding parks and open space acquisition, engage coalition partners such as 1,000 Friends, etc., and then inventory interested landowners for conservation easement or leasing farmlands, fundraise and execute conservation easements and our farm and or farm leases. So you see those repeated from other goals as well, just as Mark had pointed, or Bill had pointed out. Okay, next one. All right, so this is going to show what I think John identified as the different efforts that would have to go into creating initiatives on each of these goals. Okay, next slide. So let's take a look at this for a minute. The PSU effort matrix. Maybe the PSU put this together. Okay, so in terms of working on the CVP action plan, broad educational campaign, long-term land use advocacy, and land conservation and access, there have been some levels of effort identified, right? For influence, for effort investment, for time investment, for financial investment, and community investment. So this may be something that you want to be referring to as you're having your conversations about what how you're going to work on the 5 goals this year as a board, and as you're looking at your board assignments and what needs to be done, your committee assignments, which committees are really going to help you to accomplish these and which ones are going to be feasible this year. Bill, do you want to talk about this one at all in particular? And you're muted again.
That's when I do my best work. He's got this here, but it really is kind of what you said. When we get into the actual effort of defining what these goals are going to look like or ferreting them down, this tool kind of tells you where a lot of energy is going to be expended. And it's maybe not as straightforward as some of the other things, where he's lined out, these are the tools to use, but it still gives you, in other words, if you had for instance, go to land conservation and access, time investment is high, financial investment is high, community investment is high. I don't know about you guys, but that's probably not the first thing I'm going to pick right out of the gate, because it's a pretty big mountain to climb. If we look at things that we can get under our belt and maybe make some progress in some of these other areas without thinking that we've got to finish it in a year or even necessarily 2, but we can have incremental goals. This kind of tells you where a lot of energy has to be focused, and not just energy, but energy in the form of money or buy-in by the community. And to that point, we've got to be constantly thinking in our heads, who else do we know in the area that that can be an advocate, or that would be willing to work on a committee, or that would be willing to help us? Doesn't necessarily want to be on the board, or maybe they would, but at least get them involved and be constantly reaching out to increase that. The reason we are where we are now is because a lot of people, a small group, worked mightily for many, many years, Randy Yamada's wife being one of those, to keep this organization intact. And we have to be constantly thinking, what do we need to do as the board now to bring new people in and make them aware of not only the need, but the opportunity. So going forward, this can be handed off. This can be passed on to other folks and to essentially future generations, AKA Carolyn Comer. Thanks. This is something I think that you have setting beside you when we work on page 16 and 17 coming up.
Okay, thanks, Bill. So as Bill was, I was just going to say the high influence piece of that matrix is interesting because it might show you where you want to put your initial energy. If you've got something that the influence is going to be high, it might be interesting to look at those columns and see what that would involve. Okay, thanks, Katie. So strategy to action. Let's look at that. So PSU had suggested an approach to establish priorities. Those include review and discuss possible actions for each PSU strategy using the feasible commit decision framework, which is slide 3. Add and delete actions for each strategy. Conduct the whole group priority voting exercise to establish top priorities by PSU strategy with each participant having 3 votes. It's kind of like if we were all in the room together, we'd give you a dot and tell you to put 3 dots on each of the things that you thought were important, I think. Bill, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I've got an older version, but what I've worked off of, there's a page 16 or slide 16, and I think this is slide 17. So if you flip that back, Katie Wilson, do you have a slide strategy action? Do you have a slide 16?
It looks like it says this is slide 16.
Oh, you know what? I think what I have is his original. I think this is one that he X'd out, and I didn't get it taken out. So you're fine. We cut this down because because both of us felt like we weren't going to get through it all, and even if we did, it was, so that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to be sure that what people had in their packet wasn't different than what I had, but it's what I have in my packet that's different than what you guys have. So carry on. Thanks for accommodating me.
Okay, is there something on that edited slide, the one that wasn't included, that you think would be important for us to know? You're muted, yeah.
Yeah, let me just read through it real quick.
Okay.
And some of it does show up in this, but he said the CVP goals and the PSU strategies align. So that's a discussion point. Current activities by the board address the PSU strategies in some form or fashion. So, I mean, whatever we're going to do, obviously the board is going to be involved in putting it out there. Suggest board focus on CVP implementation. Well, I would hope, given the push that our voters gave us, you know, to being shy of 90% of approval, that's where we need to be focused, you know, in some form, wherever that is. And use offsite to identify high priority gaps between what is currently occurring by Hamlet committees, which we've talked about. That's how this is going to get done, is in the committees, and determine what needs to be accomplished. So yeah, I think most of what he's got here is you know, shows up in 17 or 16 now, what was 17. And one of the things I underlined is his recommendation, which is align committees with CVP goals and establish 5 high priority actions for 2021. So we've said that a number of times, but that's, you know, that's what this is all leading up to. So yeah, I think you're great. Go ahead to this final screen set, and it was probably fine that we removed that, but that's what was on there. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bill. So this basically is a process proposal.
Hi, can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, and I want you guys to be able to respond to this before we move too much further. This is the last slide of the PowerPoint.
Okay, was this packet sent out to everybody? I don't believe I got this.
I neither.
No, Bill, are you under the assumption that we all have this packet in front of us?
If you don't have it, it's because I didn't send it right. Okay.
I don't have it.
Okay. Well, then
I don't either.
okay.
Are you talking about having the PowerPoint itself? Because I believe you sent, I do have this. It was emailed, or it was a part of the email.
Right. There should have been an agenda. There should have been the past minutes from last year's retreat, so you knew what we were working on, and there should have been this. There should have been, I think, 3 attachments that went to all the board members. Actually, I had to send Carolyn's twice because I screwed up her email the first time. But that Rich had trouble opening it. In fact, he had trouble opening all 3, and I don't know what he did, but he got that to work. So anybody else that didn't get this, because I can certainly send this to you when we're done here, but I'm sorry, this is the first time some of you are seeing it, because that was not the goal. This would have been mid last week.
Personally, all I got was the agenda, and then you made a reference to an attachment, but there were no other attachments.
Yeah,
that's what I got. Yeah, yep. Me too.
Okay. Well, and I wonder if by sending it as a PowerPoint, if you aren't able to open PowerPoint because you don't have that, essentially that document capability on your computer, if that's a problem. I mean, again, I'm pretty naive about this stuff. I just, you know, punched it in and thought it went. Katie. Katie Kreider says it should have been sent as a PDF. And actually, that's how I think John sent it to me initially. And it was harder to read, but it was certainly there. we'll get it to you. I mean, in one form or the other, we'll get it to you, but I apologize. I did try to send it. I just evidently didn't show up, so.
So I'm looking back on my emails and I do see it, but I keep up with my emails pretty well. So anyway, I have it.
Looks like it was sent January 26th. If that helps anybody look for it.
Yeah, Tuesday. Is that a Tuesday?
I don't know.
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's just continue. You know what? We'll get it later, one way or the other.
We
Well,
can,
and-
you know,
and
we
again-
can jump back and forth between the slides if we need to, but why don't we go ahead and stop the share, Katie, for just a minute so that we can all see each other again. And what I want to do is just get kind of a sense of where people are with this information. And if you want to ask questions or get any clarification, because this will be, you know, we'll transition from this into talking about board alignment in a few minutes. But that was a lot of information. I just want to check in with people and see if it made sense.
Amy, what was OAT again? I'm sorry, I can't remember what it stood for.
Oregon Agricultural Trust.
Right, okay, thank you.
I think it's important, basically, as we wrap up the PowerPoint, for someone just to do a quick summary. Because there were definitely some, I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing it, but it's pretty thick as far as the, you know, the amount of information and the wording. And obviously for our new board members, they may not be familiar with the PSU plan that was presented last year to us. So anyway, it would be good for someone to do a quick summary, like the top 3 points, but that's my suggestion, just to simplify it a bit.
Okay, I'm gonna pass that to someone else because as a facilitator, I didn't go through the last year with you all. And so if someone would like to try and make an attempt to do that summary for the group, that would be great.
Okay, say it one more time, what it is that is going to help you.
Oh, I felt for the whole group, it might be best if we just, if those that have had a chance to digest all of that information before today, just to give us the top summary. Like, how would you summarize all that information?
I could have a go at it. I didn't see it before, but let me see if I kind of go. So as I understand it, what John put together was an effort to marry what the PSU peeps came up with in terms of their action plans, their top recommendations to what it is that we put forth to our community in our CVP and the community vision plan. And try to find those areas that not only forward the agenda for the CVP, which is what our people voted on, that they supported and wanted, but to also take it a step further and deeper into the PSU strategies that were recommended. And so the recommended, as I get it, there were 4 recommended strategies from PSU. They wanted us to create an action plan. So using our vision plan to create an action plan. They wanted to see us try to educate, do a broad education campaign where our members, our community is clearly aware of not only our backstory, the heritage, but its current potential, its current importance and future potential. So past, present, future. The thing was they wanted to promote a long-term land use advocacy. So a mechanism that we have mechanisms in place to advocate for not only the preservation things, but that we have a hand also in directing any future development. And then the 4th thing was looking at land conservation and access, public access to farming or to just to being able to come to the farmland. So protecting our open spaces, further developing riparian corridors and creating an awareness of the wildlife that exists. Maybe ways that we could build small farms or encourage farmers. And then, of course, looking at the equity issues and reaching out to underserved populations. Okay, so that was my take, my stinky summary.
Nice, Jane.
That was great.
Good job.
Well done.
You're hired, Jane.
Teacher hat.
That's
If
great.
If
So
those kids that go through your class don't come out wicked smart, it's because they're not paying attention. Am I right? Huh?
So what else do you want to talk about in terms of this information that was just shared? Go ahead, Rich.
Well, my comment is that as you read through the PSU work, I personally don't agree with all of their directions, but it's excellent work. So what we, in my opinion, there are snippets that we probably should, in my opinion, not use, but the bulk of it, as John has laid out, is very valuable. I think that in a further discussion scenario, not certainly for this Zoom meeting, it would be pertinent to identify, that really isn't the best for maybe the Hamlet, but that's a board decision. But the general work is excellent, and what John's done really helps tie that together. Especially, I think it's important for all of the board members to help the new board members understand objectives today, past, and forward, and how this can reach it. But I think there's some techniques that PSU has proposed to us that I'm not comfortable with, but I'm only one of 10. So thank you.
Thanks, Rich. So I'm wondering if that means that you think that one of the things that you might do this year in your board meetings is in some way go through this PSU information and digest it, and then figure out what you're going to use.
Well, my comment to that is, Amy, there is heavy lifting associated with this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a sit around the table and in 5 minutes we say, okay, we're going to go after this.
Right.
Like I said, it's heavy lifting. But yes, effort now for the long run will pay dividends to all of us and to now the Hamlet vision, the new vision. But again, it's not one board meeting. It's not one committee meeting. It will be a topic of discussion. Even after we agree, we will find out what's working and what's not working, how the public accepts it, how the cities accept it, how the county and metro accept it. And, we need to keep light feet on this.
So it's guidance. Go ahead.
Well, and I think one of the challenges with this is, like Rich said, there is so much material, and we can't accomplish it in one meeting, in one setting. And a part of the challenge is figuring out how to segment it or break it up, and look at, what do we look at first? What do we look at second? What do we look at third?
Mm-hmm. And it can't even all be done in 1 year. Jane?
No.
So I wonder if we come at it a different way. I wonder if we talk about today, we'd really like to see happen. Most of us have a history here, whether you're new to the board or not, you have a history with maybe what you're hoping for your involvement in this group. And then we use the PSU study as a resource. Instead of having it drive our decisions, why are we not saying, look, I really want to make sure we have some sort of community event this year, whether we call it the Stafford Hamlet Family Fest, or we call it the Harvest Fest, or Fabulous Fiala Fest, whatever, that we then draw out the pieces from the PSU study that support that. And we can say, look, this is grounded in recommendations. We feel like we're checking boxes, but at the same time, we're actually getting something accomplished rather than discussing a study.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, so
Again, you're hired.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're all saying resonates with me. And again, you know, in my way of processing this, it's the CVP goals, those 5 goals or 5 items that we value, how we apply the PSU paradigm or tools to that is how it's going to get us there. Now, we want these goals to be specific enough that, you know, I mean, again, PSU isn't the only way to get there. It's just one of the groups of tools, and something that we should reiterate to the new folks in particular, but to all of us in general anyway. You know, PSU didn't do what those of us that had a lot of impact on them early on actually asked them to do. And I had even made a pitch after they had chosen their goals to try to sway it the direction that we wanted. You know, we wanted to be a more specific outcome. That isn't what they did. And Rich and I just wrote a letter for an award that they were getting, and I mentioned that they were real clear about what they wanted, they were willing to do, and we were pretty clear about what we wanted them to do. And all that's good. But the bottom line is we got an independent third party to give us these tools that anybody looking at what we're doing can see our agenda isn't just narrow. Our agenda is broad in the sense that we're willing to take in information from some very talented people, maybe not with a lot of historical credibility, but definitely a lot of academic chutzpah, and throw it at this thing. So it bears repeating that this is going to influence the people that we're trying to influence, because it's not just about us and our limited agenda. It's about other people looking at this, we taking the information they've given us and applying it. And to me, that's really exciting. So again, we're back down to the community vision plan and which of those items we see being of the most influence and the easiest to influence, and then taking those on. That's essentially it. And if we can come up with 4 or 5 goals in the next half hour, we're golden. And then we can break this out when we go through the committees, and people can go into each of those goals and, you know, be on one, or if they want 2 of those, to work through it and find ways to apply it. Does that make sense? So that we're not doing all the heavy lifting right here, right now. We're doing the decision of, you know, 50,000 feet looking down stuff, and then we get into the weeds in small groups.
Yeah.
Do I have an amen, or do I have a thumbs down?
Amen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So this is a large framework and it gives you some guidance, but you're gonna, as Bill said, need to decide what it is you want to do this year. And I'm wondering if, I'm gonna go back because I have the slideshow in front of me over here. I'm gonna go back and look at your goals. And maybe Katie can pull that up. CVP goals. Okay, can you pull up slide 6? Are these the goals you're working with now? I think it's slide 6. It's one before that. Okay. Is this what you're looking at to try and determine what you're going to be doing this year, or is there something else that I'm missing? You got to unmute, Bill.
You don't get any credit for hand motions, even though you're muted. Okay, yeah, this was, I mean, how we push this forward, where we push this forward is essentially what this is all about. I mean, the community voted for this, so this is what we need to foster, to nurture, and essentially not just get the 3 cities that are around us, but the county and metro on board with this to buy in, to buy into these goals. And I mean, sustainability falls into a lot of these areas, and a lot of other things. The Rich and Rick and Jeff Goodman have talked a number of times about the carbon sequestration potential of the area. All of those things, if we can come out of this with 4 or 5 goals that have these as their leading piece, then it seems like we're going down the road that we've promised the community. In other words, it's not just words, it's going to be applied action to these words.
Okay, so my question is this the right list to be jumping from or referring to as you create your goals for this board for this year, or is it a different list?
Yeah, this is the list in my mind. What your take, Jane?
Absolutely. I think this is what our community voted on most recently as giving us their support, and I think that we work off of this. There's a slight like a blurb above, and just so that you know, Amy, it says we will work to encourage conservation partnerships that protect open spaces and forest land, expand and enhance wildlife and riparian corridors, and explore ways to encourage and promote active agriculture. And then those were the 5 listed goals. And I think this is the document to springboard off of as we create our action plan. This is the place to begin.
All right, so I don't have like a flip chart that I can make notes on and capture all your information like we would be if I was in the same room with you. But what I'd like you to be able to do now is to start maybe brainstorming a little bit about how you might actualize each of these goals. What concrete steps would you be taking this year as a board to get to these goals?
So I think that Bill made a point earlier that what is kind of nice about this is that sometimes by addressing one, we can check the boxes on the others. So you could say if we minimize additional traffic and infrastructure impacts, we are also hopefully safeguarding clean air and groundwater at the same time maintaining a secure and serene environment. So in those top 3 goals seem to kind of be hands in gloves, so to speak. One, protect one and we get the others, which is great bang for the buck. The last 2 though, however, I think are different. We can maintain secure and serene environment, but the more people know about us and want to come see us, then we might have some additional traffic, but again, that could be minimal. So like, I think we have to talk about what it is we could do.
Yeah, when I say brainstorming, I want you to come up with ideas of things that you could do, and then you'll narrow it down and decide what you actually will commit to.
I've got one. All right. Okay. So one of the things that we've been having conversations, pretty casual ones, but still have been reaching out to the 3 cities, is to get them to have an awareness in a I guess a formal setting, that is at one of their meetings, about us now having a CVP with specific goals. So sharing that with the 3 cities and the county, and one of the things that we're going to talk about here in a bit is an idea of that Beaver Creek and ourselves have been working on is to go to the county once a month. It doesn't have to be the same person, but somebody from our area or our board, give them a 3-minute update about what we're working on and what's working for us or what isn't. And Beaver Creek's going to take one of the monthly meetings and do theirs, and we're going to take another one, and hopefully we'll get Malino on board to do the same. So the county administrator, or the county commissioners, and this has been encouraged by other folks in the organization, administrator as well. It is just to keep them apprised of what we're doing. And this obviously is something that we're pretty proud of. So we're going to be willing to share that with them right out of the gate. But
that's education, and
we're going to do the same thing. So if we say that's a goal, and then we continue to do that, to me, it's an achievable goal. It's got a beginning, and end, and a middle. And there isn't anything on here that isn't going to get ticked, some with more impact than others, but it's going to start a conversation with those 3 cities and to some degree the county. And, maybe down the road, it's even Metro that we get involved with, although that's a little above my, above my pay grade or my thought process. But that would be one goal that we could write down, is to share this with the 3 cities in a formal, all but brief setting.
Okay, I've captured that one. I have a document up on my other screen, and I'm keeping track of these. And so I can share them after you're done coming up with them. And then we can kind of go through and see which ones you want to commit to. I think probably that Katie and I can do share screen, and we can do that a little bit later. So go ahead and keep coming up with ideas. I have that down as education and outreach, sharing CBP goals with 3 cities and county, 3-minute updates. I mean, that's what I captured as concrete action. Okay, who had their hand up? Let's see, Rich.
Yeah, Jane and Rich.
And then Lynn.
So while this ties in directly to the 4th of the 5, I very quickly wrote a couple paragraphs on how we would approach the local communities. And this is just off the top of my head. What you will see from the Hamlet are 5 priorities from the Community Vision Plan, approved 1/19 of 2021. We will be approaching each of these goals with our partners in local governments, conservation organizations, and agricultural interests to promote and solidify our action plans. That's as far as I made it in 2 minutes, but I can see that as a beginning statement to these groups of the seriousness and our intentions to do that. Thanks.
Thank you, Rich. Len?
Yeah, 2 comments. First of all, I agree with Jane as far as these items are not mutually exclusive. They will be accomplished together. Second thing is that going down each one of the CVP goals, if you talk to individuals from the 3 cities surrounding us, their goals are the same. So we're on board pretty much as far as them wanting to achieve the same things we're looking to achieve. So I don't think we're going to have any pushback from them, but we should continue to approach them on that.
Okay. Thank you, Len. Who else? Jane.
I would like us to put down a goal of being, opening any of our community forums or meetings with a look back. I think that would be a powerful way to educate on the history. So I'd like that to be included.
Okay, great. Okay, who else? What else? Patty.
Well, we've talked about this before, and I think one of the things that many of us are interested in is expanding small farm opportunities in the hamlet, expanding opportunities for beginning and small farmers. And I think the roadblock that we come up with is, I don't think we're exactly, I don't think we know where to start with that. So I think that that should be a goal, as to be something that we pursue and come up with, maybe 1, 2, or 3 steps, things to go about accomplishing to work towards that.
So that would be a research effort of sorts, to be able to, even though that's a goal, you just don't know how you're going to do it yet, and you need to learn more.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah, good wording. Yeah, I think we probably need to research how to go from the idea to the execution. And
Okay.
so yeah, I guess that would be a good place to start. Find out how other places have done it and what they've done and what might be available for us. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Patty. Think about yourselves too. What do you see yourself doing this year? As you've listened to this presentation and you're learning more, if maybe you're coming in as a new person or you've been here for a while, how do you see yourself in this picture? Katie.
Obviously, I'm in support of the CVP as a holistic kind of goal. Looking at each of these items individually, like the top 3, I can't put my arms around how we as a board can have impact on those items. I think 4 and 5, as I think 4 especially, we absolutely, I think that's very doable, and I could absolutely see us all being able to have action items toward that. But if anyone has any other ideas to share about safeguard clean air and groundwater, how do we go about that? Is that an educational thing? With our community, maintain our secure and serene environment? How do we define that? What is secure and serene to you? Minimize additional traffic and infrastructure impacts. How do we impact that? We can't go out there with stop signs and say slow down or take the other road. Any ideas?
Yeah, I got an idea,
Bill and then Jane.
Then it isn't gonna be maybe as specific as what you're bringing up, Katie, but there are sustainability plans, particularly in Lake Oswego, but also in Westland and Tualatin. And this kind of goes to what Len was saying. They're already working on this stuff. All we're trying to do is give specific goals to a bigger picture, which is essentially sustainability. And if part of what we do with our 3 goals goes into those 3 cities and say, okay, we want to work with you guys. And what the beautiful part of that could be is the 3 cities say, yeah, well, we want to all work together and find out what you're doing and what you're doing. And we're kind of a tool in that toolbox for them. In other words, we've got this unique situation where we don't have a bunch of pavement, but we do have a bunch of raw ground that can be applied. And obviously agriculture is going to help with that. But if we do that, and the county also has, I don't know how far down the road they are, Katie Wilson may know this, better than the rest of us. But if we connect some of those dots, in other words, if we're a vehicle for bringing those folks to the dance, a lot of what we've got in our CVP, if not all of it, is going to be impacted in some way by increasing the sustainability model that is, and guidelines that are being, put out there. And that goes back to Katie Kreider's point about volunteering someplace else to bring more folks in. This is pretty specific as opposed to more random, but it's going to do the same thing. It's going to make other folks aware of who we are and other stakeholders that are interested in the same kind of stuff we are. So there you go.
Okay, so Bill, you're saying, I'm just gonna, am I echoing again?
That's okay. We can hear you.
I just want to say, so it's this piece about making sure that you're attending meetings, you're doing outreach, you're connecting with people, you're building relationships, and all of that can be planned out in your committee work.
Correct.
Okay.
Wait, can I just say something really fast?
Yeah, Patty.
So maybe what we need, Katie, is when we go out to volunteer, maybe we need t-shirts that have our CVP on them.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Just keeps going around.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, I look at that list and all of these things boil down to just people caring about the Hamlet. You know, I mean, if people are that value it, that are outside of, we all value it. Obviously, people who live here value this. So this is all about community outreach. So giving people a reason to care that Stafford remains rural. Obviously, the Hamlet Fest is part of that. Inviting people, you know, if people don't care about something unless they use it, they're not going to value it unless they use it. So they're going to come out here and attend Hamlet Fest. If there are more, family farms here for them to come get organic vegetables, or they have opportunities to educate their children with farming, I think that's all great. But I think it's all basically this really is one goal, because people aren't going to litter and throw trash at, out their windows. They drive up, wisteria if they care about this place. So, I think, just the broader goal of just educating people, and these things really just kind of fall in line, because they're pretty, some of these are kind of general, concepts as well.
And Tate, if you've got that goal, then if the committees can think about that, okay, so we've got that as a goal, how are we going to build it out? Then you can come up with those concrete ideas within your committees as well, right?
Yeah, no, and I'm excited to get to the committee part of this. We can actually start, creating actionable items for us to start working on. So,
and we'll get there in a couple minutes. We have till noon, and it's now about 10:52, I think. So why don't we spend a few more minutes on some brainstorming this way, and then we can start talking about committee assignments. Does that sound okay with everyone?
Great.
Okay, Jane.
So just like trying to tie together the pieces, these ideas that seem to be bubbling and percolating. In my mind, I'm seeing 4 different streams. I'm seeing advocacy, and that's what Bill spoke to, the importance of letting other communities around us know what it is we're doing. The second strand I'm seeing is events and education. How do we, what you asked, Patty, how do we promote agriculture? How do we encourage farming? There are a lot of people in the Hamlet who have sizable properties, but currently aren't using it. That could be an education wing. We could hold workshops on beekeeping. There are people in the Hamlet who do that. Why not invite community members in to learn about beekeeping? I know I'd be down for that. We have horse owners. We could do farm tours of people who have horses and what it takes to have a horse. My next door neighbors are really interested in the concept of growing, having more chickens and moving into alpacas and fleece. We have people in the Hamlet who do that. We could create that. So events and education is another strand. A third strand is make sure that we are embracing our history, and that can go all the way back to tribal history as well. And making sure that we're involving people in citizenry and in the knowledge of what this place is and was and can still be. And then the final piece would be the information and involvement in terms of attending those meetings about I-205 expansion, attending any water conservation committee meetings to listen and hear and learn about what's going on and happenings to be communicated back to our Hamlet people. So I'm seeing 4 different strands of things that we've talked about so far, and wondering if that should be guiding our committees.
That's great, Jane. Let me just make sure I captured that. So advocacy, events and education, embracing our history, and the last one I caught as water conservation efforts, but I think that was a specific.
Information.
Yeah, I would call it information and involvement. So
Okay.
like literally going out to other things that can have an impact on us.
If we're adding things to that agenda, I had some thoughts, and I don't know if this has been brought up before, but responsible development. There are a lot of people, building out here right now that just seem to be going out and mowing down every tree on their 5 acres, and then all sorts of invasive species, sprout up and all sorts of other silly stuff. But the concept of retaining native species and not having to go in and clear cut the whole thing, I think would really move the needle on kind of retaining, obviously the forest, and educating them about forest deferrals and farm deferrals and the benefits of retaining some of the trees and not completely just decimating them.
Great. Thank you, Tate.
I love that as a 5th strand. I think that's super. That's really important. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Great. Okay. How does everybody feel about what Jane
Kelsey,
and Tate just
did you have your hand
suggested?
up, Kelsey?
I did, yeah. I just wanted to comment. I
Okay,
agree
go ahead.
with everything that everybody's been saying. In the PSUs, when they did the CVP and the 5 goals and the areas that, it was moderate and low, it looked like it said the community investment, which I assume is in, I don't know if it's in the Stafford overall or in the goals overall, is low. And I think all of those ideas are really good for involving the community more, because that looks like an area that isn't getting as much involvement as it really should be, because the community has so much to do with achieving those goals. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. Let's see, somebody else had hands up. Rich.
Hi. So to just build on what Jane was talking about with specifically the tribe and soil and water, a tribe, not necessarily the tribe, those would both be very great standard community meetings to have for instance, the Confederated Tribes come in and do a proposal. That'd be a great beginning point there, and possibly have soil and water, Clackamas County Soil and Water, come and actually hold one of their meetings or a portion of their meetings, regular meetings, at the Hamlet, and have the opportunity to get our citizenry involved in that fashion. Thanks.
Great. And that's part of their mission, isn't it? The Soil and Water Conservation District reaches out and works with
Absolutely,
right?
And it would be a different type of reach to actually come out here where we're promoting it, to have them promote it to us and have a meeting about that here.
And then the Confederated Tribes you were mentioning, say a little bit more about that.
Well, Jane is talking about history all the way back to the Confederated Tribes. And if we go way back, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to promote education and be able to have these recorded, which they are, and then do a history lesson from their point of view, not from our point of view, and not some scholar that wrote a book 40 years ago about their point of view, but let them produce it and show it to us and our citizenry, and then push that into the schools.
Wonderful. Okay. Bill Long.
Yeah, I think tailing on what Rich is talking about, people that are set up to evaluate and suggest would be the Extension Office in Oregon City, forest, ground, water. We should be more involved with them, I would think, maybe just on a meeting basis. But I think it's in line with what Rich is talking about.
Great. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
All right. Other thoughts? Bill, Mark?
Yeah. So the common theme here in my brain isn't the land itself or the sustainability. It's the means to make this happen. And this doesn't really show up so much in our CVP, nor does it show up per se in PSU. But what we need, I think, is we need we need more volunteers. Okay, we need more broad community involvement. And what we're saying is going to necessarily follow that that's going to happen. It isn't going to happen if we don't reach out. I mean, we got Patty doing Welcome Wagon. We've got a lot of folks that talk to a lot of other folks. And again, you know, the Family Fest has been a wonderful vehicle for awareness and getting folks to volunteer, getting their foot in the door. But as we go out, you know, which is, I think, where Katie Kreider was going with, you know, her initial point about being more outreach to other volunteer groups. If we can have a goal that says these are the things that we're going to always try to apply to get more volunteers involved, I can't see that this organization isn't going to benefit hugely by that, and all the other goals are going to necessarily become easier. I mean, the more people you have, the easier the task becomes. And if we're clear about what our goals are, and that we represent everybody, then that necessarily follows. So that would be one that I would want to see worked in somehow to this discussion.
Great. Okay, so it sounds like you guys your brains are working, you're getting creative, you're thinking about all the different ways of connecting things. And it's kind of it's not just, it's a networking idea, and information sharing and education, all those things that Jane was talking about and Tate referred to, and then the ideas you're building out from there. What I'd like to do now is just take a quick break and 3 to 5 minutes. And then in the next hour or less, between now and noon, that you'll hop back on and start determining who's going to be on what committees and how you're going to build those out. And so you'll have to shift your ideas a little bit to how are we going to populate committees that will then be able to take on some of these things we're talking about. So we won't be actually addressing the action items themselves, but talking about who's going to be responsible for them taking that next step as you work your way into your board work over the next year. And you'll have the opportunity to be working on those items in your committees between board meetings, and then reporting out to your board meetings, having discussions about them each month. And it'll be an iterative process. So Bill, you want to say something before we take a quick break?
Yeah, and I don't want to be attached, overly attached to the agenda, but it feels like we're real close here with all the input we just got, that we could come up with 4 or 5 action plans out of what we've just done. And I don't want to lose
that. Sounds good.
The committees are going to be how it occurs. But if we can take our break, come back and focus on that for, hopefully, I mean, you've written down a bunch of stuff. I've written down a bunch of stuff. We got to be able to come up with 4 or 5 things that we can target. That doesn't mean that it can't change. That doesn't mean that it can't morph, but at least we're going to come out of this with goals. Everybody good with that?
Okay, so we'll do it when we get back. We'll do a quick little summary about those topics, and then you'll be able to pick which committees you're going to be on, and maybe then we'll circle back at the end and see if those topics still make sense based on the resources you have and the committees you've decided to work on.
Great, thank you.
Okay, all right, so we'll be back again here, let's say in about 10 after. Okay. Pull together some information that might be helpful. I don't know if Katie, you can let me share my screen or not, just for a second. I can kind of go over what I thought I heard, and we can add to it. You can use this for reference later too. Let's see.
You should be able to share now.
Okay, great. Let's see if this is it. Oops. What's that? That's not it. Oh, I know, it's on my other screen. See, I have to move it around. Hold on a second. This is interesting. There it comes. Okay, All right. Can people see that? Is it sharing?
I think you had it right the first time,
Had it right the first time?
because now we just see your windows.
Is that it? No,
No.
got it. Everything's up there except what I want. This is what I want. Can you see it?
No.
No, I think you want to switch back to what you were doing with your first share.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Oh, shoot. This may not work. Okay. Let me think about it for a second. It says I'm still sharing and I need to put it back where it was. Is that what you mean? Does that work? Do you see it now?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So now you can see the screen that I'm trying to share. Is that right?
Yep.
I heard Patty say yes. All right. So anyway, so I listed your vision plan goals and then just tried to capture some of the concrete things that you were talking about before we took our break. So education and outreach, community involvement, and then expanding small farm startup opportunities as a research project. And under education and outreach, it was things like sharing the CVP goals with cities and counties, open any of your community meetings with historical lookbacks, promote and encourage agriculture, embrace your history, including tribal knowledge of what was, is, and will be, promote more family farms, educating children about farming, and then community involvement, the advocacy piece, connecting with those around us, information and involvement, getting some of your partners in to provide information, and encourage responsible development. So those are the things I captured. I know there's a lot more information out there that you guys are thinking about and have talked about. What would you like to add before we start talking about, I'm gonna open up my window here, before talking about who's on which committee? It's awful quiet out there.
Amy, Rich,
Yeah.
three different things. One of them would be if we want to promote small farming, one of the tasks would be to gain partners from the coastals of the world or the Wilcos of the world and look for them to help us create a co-op scenario and a way that it makes it and something from them, along with the extension office in Wilsonville or up at Clackamas County, the opportunity to design a working co-op scenario in a loose fashion that the retail companies could help support and find ways to make it work. So a team would be reaching out to start, whether it be however it would play from there. Sponsorship, just conversation, would Wilco take part? Anyway.
Okay, I'm just gonna make a note of that. So that's a specific idea about that, promoting more family farms, is that right?
Exactly.
Okay. All right, are you ready to shift into talking about who's on which committees? Or is there something else you want to add to this before we leave it?
Can we just move on to the committees so that we can get into the action of this? I think I'm entirely burned out from 2 hours of talking about synergy and the 50,000 foot look. So
thanks for expressing that, Andy. I'm sure other people feel the same way. This is a retreat, so it does take a little bit of a big picture, and then we have to drill down to who's actually going to do the work. So let's go ahead and get started on that. And
one quick comment.
Yeah.
Okay. What we really need to do, because when extension was brought up, my wife used to work for the extension office, so part of this won't be able to occur, but is to encourage farm to table. It is working in other communities. We have enough farmers here to do farm to table, and that needs to be promoted.
Okay, I just added that to my list of things on that sheet that I just stopped sharing, so that's there. And then I'm going to keep track of your committee assignments. So as you're talking about which committees you want to be on, it'll also, I mean, obviously this is a meeting that's being recorded and there will be meeting minutes developed from it. But for the moment, so I can keep track of what you're up to today, I'm going to be listening and recording what you're telling me in terms of which committees you want to be on. So let's work through this. At the very bottom of, basically it's the second page of your agenda. Oh, and we also need to do nominations and elect your officers too. So do you want to save that to the end of this since people are anxious to get onto their committees? Okay, all right, so let's start. Public relations, who's on public relations? We got Rich.
Yeah, I am.
Who else?
I was looking at that CVP, the Thousand Friends organization, and I kind of did a little work with that. I do work in that area, so I think we probably need a liaison if we're going to embrace their recommendations. I'd be happy to be the, if that's part of PR, if I need to be on the PR committee to do that, to be the liaison for those guys. But
okay, you guys can figure out the details. Tate, you're on the list.
okay.
Okay, so far I've got Rich, Bill, Len, and Tate, and who else? Is that it?
Len, I'm on that too.
Okay,
Yeah,
Len, I've got you. All right, is that it for public relations? Okay, let's move on to the next one then. Communications. We've got a couple of different, well, we've got quite a few breakdowns under communications, and the way it's listed on your agenda is you'll need some liaisons for the C4 and the city council meetings. There's a topic of outreach, which we listed on our goals for actions. Maps is already assigned to Matt. Newsletter, Janet and Matt, but Jana's no longer on the, is she still going to be helping with that?
No, what Jana has, let's see, I'm unmuted, yeah. What Jana has done is given us, I mean, I didn't bring it, but she wrote out all the stuff that she does in the various areas that she works. So whoever's willing to take this on, she's not only going to give you a written guide, she's also going to be there as a resource to help you through. And I'm just going to say that, the challenge for us in my mind, and again, this is because this area is like, so far away from my skill set as to be, and on another planet. We need help in the website, social media, newsletter regard, because this is how we communicate with everybody, and that's one of the reasons we've been successful, because this has been well done over the course of the Hamlet, really. So yeah, Jana and Matt were doing the newsletter. I don't know, again, I haven't checked in with Matt, but I'm assuming that he'd be willing to still help. The website isn't maybe as urgent on a daily basis, but both social media and newsletter are really critical.
Social media and oh, I'm sorry. Oh, geez. Social media and the newsletter, I can help. Am I echoing a lot? I sound really bad. Are things that I can help with. I do have a history in graphic design, and I do use a lot of social media in the past and I've created newsletters and things like that. So that's something I can help with if sorry.
No, absolutely. You say those words, then the word after that isn't "I'm sorry." The word after that is "You're the bomb." And what we don't want to do is
you rock, Kelsey.
Yeah, amen. And Tate, hey, Tate, eye contact, Tate.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I was looking up the social medias.
That's okay. you can help in some area here too, because this is something that anyway, Andy says now, I'm again, and Andy as a recommend, it doesn't cross all lines, but he gives you pretty high marks for the ability to understand this stuff.
I am an influencer. I didn't know if you guys knew that. Yeah, just through our gambler page and then their Sons of Smoky stuff. We can, but I don't think it takes a lot for what this is. Kelsey, I will defer to you. You can have the account creds, but if we come up with something, my daughter loves photography, maybe we'll go wander around, take some pictures and shoot them over to you.
Great.
But as far as metrics and engagement and all that sort of stuff, I guess, yeah, if I see any opportunities there. And let's take me off the PR, because all the liaisons are in communications. So can you take me out of public relations committee and put me on the communications committee?
Sure.
And I'll
I will.
Okay, so not to throw.
Let me ask you guys a question, because if you're on the communications committee, I'm looking at all the things that are listed under it.
Yeah.
Do you want everybody who's going to be doing each of those things to be on the communications committee, or do you want to break those items down? Go ahead, Jane.
I'm wondering if maybe we just need to slightly restructure the committees. Like, I think PR and communications are overlapping, and I'm wondering if we could separate a little bit more.
Sure. I mean, it's the task that you need to do. It's you need to have the results, and however the results occur, we've just grouped this stuff together. As I remember, I mean, Patty has been hugely involved. You were hugely involved in this. Actually, when Brandon was here, I think he helped a lot. Carolyn, if there's anything you see here that grabs your attention, don't hesitate to jump in. Other than the fact that if you don't want to be on a committee with your mother, I get that. But
so can we, Amy?
Yes.
For those of us who don't have that in front of us, could you just go down the committees? What are the committees?
Well, do you have your agenda? Because if you don't, I'll just.
I don't have that because I don't have a working printer where I am. So just
okay.
So how many committees are there?
That's okay. Let me have. Can I share screen again, Katie? Is that possible?
Just read through them.
Well, okay. The way it's listed, these are all the committees, so it's a whole page worth.
You should be able to share your screen, Amy.
Okay.
There's
I'm
6
gonna
6 different committees.
Or I can if it's easier, Amy.
Yeah, but you don't have my document, right? Okay, well, yes, if you've got the agenda, please share that. That'd be great.
Okay.
So what I've got is public relations, communications, programming, agriculture, family fest, and focus groups. And yeah.
And what is focus groups?
Focus group is specifically the application of, and this is what you and I talked about, Patty, is specifically the application of equity, diversity, and inclusiveness.
Oh, okay.
And how that plays out in an end product that deals with the Mark Scholl commissioner, issue that's out there fomenting. And when we get down to that, if we go that direction, then I can go into further. But to me, that isn't. I mean, not that it can't be something that's ongoing. I just feel like we've got this teachable opportunity to our community and to those around us to show that that we're engaged with all of this dialogue, and I think the county has been come out pretty strong. So anyway, that's what focus group is.
Okay, well, let's go
to
ahead.
Answer your question now, Amy, about communications.
Yeah.
the liaisons is totally different from outreach, and maps is obviously just one individual. So I do think that it needs to be broken out, just the way it is, because
Yeah.
we need to have people assigned to those tasks.
Well, I'm wondering if liaison should be moved up into public relations.
Sure.
Absolutely. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, let's do that. I mean, we have a couple of volunteers now who are covering the city council meetings. I think that's probably much more into public relations, right?
That's great. Okay.
I have a quick comment. In addition to A and B on liaisons, we need school district liaisons
Yep. Good addition. Mm-hmm.
or outreach, either or. I guess it's liaisons, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So school districts, you want me to add in there?
Yep.
Okay. Great. Okay, so public relations is Rich, Bill and Len, and underneath that, you've got liaisons that'll need to be assigned for C4, city council and school districts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so communications, what else? How do you want to edit that?
Well, I don't know that we have to be all that specific for outreach. I don't know. What do you think, Katie Kreider?
I don't know. I mean, at this point, maybe not. As we kind of form as committees, then we can drill into it a little further.
So who would be on, I mean, there's obviously some specific tasks listed under that, but who all would be on the outreach committee, which would include other activities as well? Is it Patty and Katie and Caroline?
Well, I think it's part of communications, right? They're not subcommittees, are they?
Not really, no. Jana was on there, and who else was on there? Len, I thought Len was on there. On communications, and Matt comes, he's on there just because he really handles most of the website stuff.
Okay, so I've got Patty, Katie, Matt, and you said Len? Len, are you on communications?
Well, he was. I don't know if he wants to still be.
I was on there as far as the city council's portion of it.
Oh, so you'd be up there under public relations for city council now. Okay, got it.
Right.
And then Caroline.
And
Caroline,
Kelsey,
are you on communications as well?
Sure. I don't really care. I'm just, I can handle the students. I can handle whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So that means Patty, Katie, Matt, and Caroline on communications. Anybody else?
And Kelsey.
And Kelsey. Okay. Sorry, I get a little sidetracked, so I apologize for not remembering that you were talking about that a minute ago.
Well, and I think in the bottom of that, the newsletter, social media stuff, Tate's is gonna be involved in that too. I mean, he was willing to defer the lead to Kelsey, but I mean, I think he's, it'll all shake itself out if, the more you get to know each other and the more you find out what you're good at and what you like to do and what you don't like to do.
Okay. All right, so Tate's on social media and on the communications committee generally.
Right.
And then website is Matt, just Matt now?
Yeah, we probably need to verify Matt's commitment to that. That's, I think, a question that I'm going to need to ask. So I'll write that down in my notes here.
Depending on what Matt is, how he maintains that site or how he built it, I could potentially take that over. I'd rather not do the newsletter unless people are going to send me the content.
Okay, Tate, great. I'll put Tate down for website. And
Yeah.
who?
Well, the way it's working right now is Matt is sort of the one who actually makes the changes to the website, but Jana is the one who will, keep up with it. So somebody has to keep up with it. And Matt doesn't want to be that person. That can be you, Tate, because somebody has to really, add and subtract and make sure that it's up to date.
I have an event company. I have to maintain our websites on a daily basis. I will add it to the list.
That will be
Awesome.
fantastic. That will be great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, great. So do we have communications covered? Patty, Katie, Matt, Caroline, Kelsey, and Tate.
The last thing I want to add there is when I had talked about being a communications guy with the sheriff's office. And so I don't know if that's something we want to add in there, and I could take on that role. I don't want to sit through all the local city hall meetings, but I'm happy to meet with the sheriff's department once a month and see what's going on out here.
I think that's something we could really use. Yeah.
Should we put that under communications or under liaison?
Liaison sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're adding the 1,000 friends liaison, but Kelsey's going to be the social media go-to. I'm back up.
Right.
Okay, so social media is Kelsey and Tate.
Is the newsletter strictly an online newsletter? Is it also, I assume it's not printed? I don't know.
Emailed.
It's emailed? Okay. I mean, I can, depending on how that's set up, I can help with that as well.
Great.
Okay. Set up, does anybody know if it's set up to like MailChimp or something?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the next one. Okay, and you guys, after we're finished today, you can fiddle around with committee assignments in your board meeting as well, but this will at least give you an idea of what you're committing to this year generally, okay? So should we move on to programming?
Sure.
All right, so programming has community meetings and town halls listed. And Jana and John were doing this and neither one of them is on the board now. So this one looks like it's wide open.
One thing I'd like to bring up on this, I'd like to get that changed if possible to programming and scheduling, because I had been doing the scheduling with the school district on setting up the rooms and stuff like that, and that not really listed any place, so it should be here, listed someplace.
Okay, I'll add that, programming and scheduling.
Yeah.
Is that something that needs to be determined, or are there people who will, is there anyone that wants to step up?
Well, I don't know if that, I think Len was saying this because of my shortcoming in terms of not putting him down under programming. But yeah, I mean, you can call it whatever it was. If it wasn't for him making the connections with the school district, then we didn't have any place to meet. Now, obviously, our meetings are a function of Katie Wilson showing up and Garrett or whoever else might. But we still are going to need that because at some point we're going to be back at the schools, I would assume. I mean, maybe not, but I would assume we are. So, I mean, if Len knows how to do that. I mean, not only does he know how to do it, he stays on top of it. So.
Got it. Do you want to continue doing it?
Yeah, I can stay on that. That's fine.
Okay, great. Thanks, Len. All right, and then agriculture, we've got Rich. And obviously some things listed there. Is there anyone else that wants to serve on the agriculture committee with Rich?
I would.
Jane,
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah,
And
put me down, and just like where you were up with public relations, and we didn't have Rick Cook, who isn't on the board but is very involved in that. The agriculture committee I've been talking to Jay Minor about this as well, and he's willing to to sit in with us and work on this too. So
great. Okay.
Yeah, Rick is in for it.
For the
And Rick is on the agricultural too?
Great.
I would like to be on that committee.
Is that Patty?
Yep.
We don't want you, Patty.
All right.
I'll take
Nice.
Patty's place. I'd like to
You
be on
think
it.
I have too much to do otherwise?
No, I was
I'd like to be.
just being mean.
Oh, well, that doesn't really come naturally to you, does it?
Not normally. But in your case, I make an exception.
Okay, I'm gonna,
So who else wanted to be on there?
Bill Long?
agriculture has Rich, Jane, Bill, Patty, and Jay Minor and Rick Cook. Anybody else?
Something better happen with all those folks. Okay, so we're down to Family Fest, right?
Yes.
So Katie, you were under the impression that, say again?
I think you can scratch that.
Okay, so I didn't know we decided that it was done, that we weren't gonna do it. I thought we were gonna kind of think about it, but you don't think there's a chance, huh?
I know I probably won't get a vaccine until close to September. So I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Why don't we rename that and call it something like
Events.
What Katie was recommending, the volunteer opportunities, for the board and for the community.
So events and volunteer opportunities.
Events. That's good.
That's a great idea. I mean, because we should certainly have something, whether it's a communal, walk and trash, kind of litter pickup,
right?
Or something, and not just cancel it altogether.
Yeah.
I have a different idea as well, and that would be Allium does their farm dinners here, as well as many other wineries and farms across the whole valley. It doesn't have to be Allium, but it could be somebody else. We are going to host 2 dinners, and we practice safe distancing, and they do, and went off without a hitch. They got compliments about having dinners. We could approach it as a fundraiser, a Hamlet fundraiser event, if we signed up with somebody, some restaurant, to have an event here. I think we ended up with about 65 people that time last year. So there is possibilities of forming some sort of partnership with a food provider, a restaurant, and actually have that here and still be safe.
Great idea.
Did
So
you-
who wants
did
to
you
be on
rename
the
the
events
community-
committee? We got
Rename
Jane.
the name of the community as community events.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, community events. Jane said she's willing. Who else? Rich, do you want to
Andy,
be
you
on
want
that
to get in on
committee?
that? You're a party kind of guy.
Who?
Andy.
Sure, sign me up.
Andy? Okay, I've got Jane and Andy. Who else? I feel
I
like an
think
auctioneer.
me on there, put Tate on there. Yeah.
Okay,
Am I not still on there?
Katie?
Yeah, you're
Okay.
still on there. Till you say
Who
no.
else? It's up for grabs. Who else? Okay, so we've got Jane, Andy, Tate, and Katie. Sound good?
Yep.
So like always, if there's an event going to be held here, I will participate in the committee in that fashion.
Okay, great. You'll support. Thanks, Rich. Okay, community events. Okay, we're getting close to having about 16 minutes left in our meeting today. It looks like we've gone through most of the assignments. Now, do you want to talk about focus groups in your next board meeting, or do you want to make assignments right now?
Okay, I want to get a little more closure than that. And
Okay.
One of the things that again, PSU did a pretty thorough job of defining and giving opportunities in the equity, diversity, inclusivity arena. And specifically, this was because the county is pushing a lot of organizations to give testimony to try to get Mark Schull to move on. And but my take is, if you're going to do that, you've got to have community involvement. That is some kind of a consensus as to what the community thinks. And the other piece of that is, you know, it can be, you know, a statement of what we stand for, not just about him, but as an our statement then applied to his situation. So I'd like to see, you know, I'm fine being on that committee. I'd love to see Carolyn on that committee, because my guess is with coming through the school system, she's probably got more background in having that pumped into her, you know, over the last, you know, 11 or 12 years than geezers like me. But, you know, a cross section of folks to put something together that we can present to the community, get some kind of feedback, and move on from there. But it not just for that purpose, but that purpose can be dealt with by putting this in place. So anybody else?
Okay, so Bill, basically what you're saying is that the first focus group might be around equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so you want to know who would be interested in serving on a focus group committee.
Right. And we can give a name to the focus group. I just didn't know what to call it, so that's why I said focus group. But yeah, that's exactly right.
Is there anyone that's interested in serving on a focus group? And this one would be maybe the first one on your plate.
I'd be willing to do that if it's about equity.
Caroline, okay.
Thank you.
Who else?
You could put me on that
Katie?
also, from the standpoint that the
Len?
CPO is directly involved with, well, specifically the Mark Schull thing. A little bit of background quickly. The CPO represents about 50% of the total population of Clackamas County, so we should get their input as far as how they figure we should respond to either pass a resolution to push for his expulsion or resignation, whatever you want to call it. But we need to get citizen involvement through the CPO to do that. So let's be on that committee.
Okay, so that group would be engaging the community to see what the message might be that the Hamlet could possibly give back to the county. Is that right?
Correct.
Right.
Okay. All right, great. Hey, thanks. Congratulations. You just made it through your committee assignments.
Didn't you had your hand up, didn't you, Katie Kreider?
What's that?
I thought Katie had her hand up for the focus group.
I did, and I think Amy added me to the
Okay.
So focus group is Caroline, Katie, and Len right now.
And me.
Oh, and Bill too. Okay, great. You're the one I didn't have. Okay, so thank you. The next part of the next piece of not business, but an activity that we need to do before we close the meeting today is to, I think, identify who the next officers might be. Is that right?
Yeah.
So Katie, do you want to lead that?
I'm happy to call the questions if that is helpful, Bill, or do you normally do it? I didn't want to step on your toes if you.
No, that's fine. You go with it.
Okay, so we need to determine officers today. So I think the first question is, I'm getting the list of officers up so I don't forget somebody. Hold on just a second. The first one is the chair. And So I'll open the floor for nominations for the chair.
I nominate Bill for chair.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so here's the deal, guys. I appreciate the nomination, but really, we got to find new people to do this. And I will, I mean, if this has got to be the last year. I mean, I know I say this every year, and every year we go through this. And I'm happy to stay involved with the board. That isn't the problem. I just think there's other people out there that could do a better job of this than I do. So that being said, if there's somebody else out there that has the desire to be the chair of the board, do not, I repeat, do not hesitate, but throw your hand high in the air, and I will support you mightily. I'm looking, come on.
I demand it.
Yeah, right. That's when my wife shows up. Okay.
So you're willing to do it,
I'm
Bill?
willing to do it. Yeah.
Just say no, Bill.
In the vacuum, yes. But not after this year. We're going to find somebody to transition to for next year. So
Bill,
That seems fair.
Bill, just say no.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, no. So what happens now?
We need to nominate somebody else, and I'm not interested in being chair. I will happy to be vice chair, but not chair.
Okay.
Is there any other nominations for chair?
Well, I think Bill needs to reconsider because nobody else is interested in doing it.
We had them all sold.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate it, Rich. This is kind of the problem, and maybe I'm not putting enough energy into it in the off season, and that's why this happens every year in the on season. So again, if somebody else wants this, that's great. By the same token, I had Jay that I sat through many meetings with, and a lot of other people before that. So I wasn't coming into this without knowing what I was getting into. It's just, yeah.
Is it helpful if I read the job description to everybody?
Yeah, you could.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read the job description. The chair shall preside over all the Hamlet meetings. They authorize expenditures. They appoint committee chairs, and they are responsible for the performance of such duties as prescribed by the bylaws or designated by members at the town hall meetings. The chair shall be an ex officio member of all committees. And that's a fancy way of saying they don't vote.
Just so you know, doesn't mean you get to incur snacks when you go to the committee meetings. It just means you don't get to vote. Okay, yeah, we need to move on. I mean, if somebody changes their mind, we can certainly have another discussion. But thanks, Rich. It's the reality is that I think I've got to do this probably one more year, and we'll find
So Katie,
ready to take place.
Yes.
are there any rules in place or procedures that if we find someone who wants to assume that position mid-term, that's possible?
Absolutely. Bill can just step down.
Well, yeah, and it's the board that votes on it. So it's, it isn't like it's not like a public vote. It's just the board. So yeah.
I was just trying to make it clear.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so what I'm hearing is Bill is willing to do it, and the whole committee or the whole board is going to explore options to find a new chair before the next round of nominations. So all those in favor of Bill being the chair of the Hamlet? By raise of hands, I see it's a unanimous vote. Bill, you are the winner.
Great, thank you.
The winner.
So
The
much.
next seat is, go ahead, sorry.
No.
Oh, are there any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Rich Fiala for vice chair.
Second.
Third.
Are there any other
Second.
nominations? Any discussion?
What's the job description?
Job description is the vice chair shall perform the duties of the chair in his or her absence or disability. The vice chair may co-sign for authorized expenditures if either the chair or the treasurer are unavailable. Okay, so no other nominations or discussion. The motion has been seconded. All those in favor of Mr. Fiala being the vice chair?
Aye.
Unanimous vote. Rich, congratulations.
Thank you.
The next officer, are there nominations for a secretary? The secretary shall keep accurate records of all the meetings of the Hamlet. The minutes shall be made available to the county liaison, that's me, and to the community by requesting the record from the county liaison. There may be a production charge for records requests. The secretary also handles all correspondence with the Hamlet and may be responsible for any other duties delegated by the board of directors.
One comment I would like to make is the fact that the minutes are currently kept by Kate Roth, and so that part of the secretary's duty is being taken care of.
Yes. So we are open for nominations.
Patty,
And you
are
can
down for
nominate
that?
yourself.
I don't really want that job. I mean, and I think that this is the crux of, you know, it's tough having Jana gone. How about you, Katie Kreider? Can't hear you.
Yeah, I know, I'm unmuting. Yeah, I agree. Jana took this role to new levels. So my opinion is that it could, I don't know if it's possible to be a shared position or somehow I mean, if we are to take on all the tasks that Jana took on in order to have that continuity, I do think it's more than one person.
Oh, okay, well, bear in mind here that we just offloaded the social media and the newsletter piece, and she was doing the programming, which I mean, I don't know that those necessarily fell under the umbrella of the secretary. It's just she happened to be the secretary and she did that stuff. But like Lynn said, Kate Roth does, you know, takes our minutes and you know, we pay her a nominal amount for it, but she takes.
But she takes the minutes, but the secretary is responsible for making sure that those minutes get placed in the appropriate place, that they get distributed. That isn't the secretary also the one who has to send them out to everybody to make sure, you know, so that they have them before the next meeting? Maybe Kate Roth does that. Does she?
I normally
Yes.
receive the minutes
Yeah,
from Kate Roth.
Yeah, she
I do
sends
too.
the minutes out. I don't know if.
Email.
Go ahead. Somebody talking? I don't know if she sends the minutes out to somebody at the county that then they keep a record of the minutes, but that's pretty much just passing something through the system from one point to another. Yeah, I mean, Jana would, you know, Jana is going to tell you of those things that haven't been handed off, what's still left in the secretary's, you know, arena or purview. So, yeah, I don't see why, you know, two people couldn't share it. I mean, I don't know that there's any reason not to. It's just, I don't know that I see a lot of the heavy lifting was the stuff that she did tangentially, not the stuff, the programming piece particularly, and then all the stuff we've already talked about, social media newsletter. That's, you know, that we're kind of handing off to other folks. But
Okay, all right. Well, so it's noon and we all want to go home. So I'll put my hand in for secretary.
Thanks, Katie.
I'll
Thank
put my
Is there
pen
a
in.
second?
Yeah,
Second.
I'll second that. Mhm.
Okay, all those in favor?
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
If in talking to Jana, that description that I went through changes, then you need to come back to us, and so you're not getting put into something. Okay, thank you.
The last seat for officers is the treasurer. The treasurer shall maintain an accurate record of all the income and expenses of the hamlet and co-sign authorized expenditures in compliance with the county code. The treasurer may maintain a bank account and must present a statement of accounts at every meeting. The treasurer's records shall be made available to any member of the public as required by Oregon Public Records Law. There may be a production charge for records requests.
I nominate Bill Long for treasurer.
Jane, second it.
Second.
Bill, are you accepting this nomination?
In lieu of anyone else, yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of Mr. Long continuing as your fine treasurer? Excellent. Tate, are you voting? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All those, we have a unanimous vote. Bill, congratulations.
Thank you.
That ends your voting for officers.
All right, thank you so much, Katie. Okay, and we're going to wrap this meeting up quickly because we're a couple minutes over. I just want to thank all of you for participating today. I know that Bill is hoping that there'll be a mid-year retreat sometime the end of June or July, so he'll be getting back to you about that as you go through your board meetings over the next few months. You can decide when you want to do that and just let me know so I can schedule. And then the items required for action will show up in the minutes. I also have taken some notes that I will send to Bill and he can share out with the rest of you, and that includes your committee assignments and the ideas you had for concrete activities to reach your overarching goals. And then can you just say, can we just hear one word checkout from each of you about how you're feeling at the end of this retreat? And Patty, you want to start?
Well, I think that we have a lot to do in the year ahead, and frankly, I think it would be easier if we could actually be meeting in person. So I think that's one of our big challenges is to maintain the sense of urgency and intensity with having to meet this way. But I think it was good that we had the retreat. And I think it was helpful to line out some new goals and responsibilities. So thank you very much, Amy. Appreciate your leadership.
Thank you, Patty. And I appreciate all the work that went into forming the agenda and the PowerPoint for this meeting. Kelsey, do you have a short checkout?
I think this was educational. It was good to see how everything works and what to expect going forward. So yeah, it was educational.
Thank you. Welcome. Len?
I'd like to thank all the new board members, or welcome the new board members on board. And just to let everyone know that the communication line should be open so that if you guys have any questions, each one of us can hopefully respond to what you would like to get filled in on. And let's be more of a community. I know it's kind of hard to get together except by this means, but we can proceed. I think it's a good session. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Jane?
Okay, so my one word, encouraged.
Great. Thank you, Jane. Randy? Oh, Randy is here to observe. Thanks for being with us, Randy. Bill?
I'd encourage the new members to get together with Rich on his Indoctrination 101 that was helpful to me. And it is good to get together, all of us, in one place. I wish we could do it. It stimulated some ideas I'm going to go after with Rich and Bill. But this is the next best thing we can do. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Bill, I'm going to come back to you at the very end, okay? And then Randy, I'm sorry, did you try and unmute and say something because I missed it?
Oh, I'm just impressed at how far the Hamlet has come since the inception, and you've all done a great job of institutionalizing the ideas of the Hamlet, and I think that like you're talking about, the next step is to let the rest of the community know about it at this point. So great job.
Thanks, Randy. Caroline, you're next in my screen here.
My takeaway from this is just like how involved like all of us have to be in this, like in this community, in order for it to work smoothly. And I'm going with my mom's thing. I'm encouraged because you know, we're creating a plan to make that happen, and it's exciting.
Great, awesome. Tate, you're next.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. This is all good. I think the real work is going to start happening now, though. You know, I mean, I'm stoked to break out into smaller groups, and then I think Andy and I got some other ideas for other little side projects that'll work towards our skill sets and strengths, and I think it'll be fun. So this is great to get to know all you guys.
Thanks, Tate. Andy?
Yeah, my word is going to be action. I'm looking forward to getting going on some of this stuff. I think that I don't do great in the setting of, you know, kind of the long meetings where it's that way high up overlooking view. So looking forward to putting everything into an action plan and getting going, making this place better.
Great, appreciate that, Andy. Katie?
My one word is optimistic. I welcome the 3 new board members, and I like the committee organization and our goals in reaching or addressing the CVP.
Great, thanks, Katie. Rich?
Good is the one word. Long is another word. And I would remind everybody sitting on this board that of 2 things. 1, we represent the whole of the Hamlet, all of its members. And 2, we have 3 officers who didn't want the job. Okay, so we have to think about that for now and in the future. And the last thing would be the 3 newbies. We mask up and can come to the farm stand. That'd only be 4 of us, and be happy to host you. Okay.
Nice. Thanks, Rich. And either Mitch or John, if either one of you want to comment, you can unmute. And otherwise, I'm going to say thank you so much, everyone, and Katie especially, for all your support today. If we didn't have you, it would have been really super hard to do this. So thanks for doing it.
You're welcome, as always.
And what's your one word?
My one word?
Yeah.
I am also optimistic, and I'm excited. We have some new folks on the board. I know there's some frustration about the officer appointments, and I want to help with that too. So I'm optimistic that we will find new folks who want to step into some of those roles, or we can rewrite the bylaws and break some of those roles up too. That's another option to make it not as hard for those roles to be as cumbersome.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And you might want to be thinking about how you focus on sustainability and succession planning at some point. And Mitch, Mitch, you joined us. Would you like to say something?
I've been joined, but yeah, I just show my smiling face. But thanks for inviting me, and there's lots going on here, and a lot of things in the Hamlet, maybe not quite the same as what we have on my side, especially in the short term with the CUP thing going on with the soccer club. But appreciate the invite, and we hope to work with you guys and going forward somewhat. Thanks.
Congratulations on you three guys getting voted in. And I'm sure all of us will look forward to working with you. And Jane, on a side note, call me.
Okay, John, one last chance, because it looks like you're unmuted. Oh, do it again. Now you're muted. Okay.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I enjoy being invited here, and I think the other part is I think there is a mission here. There's an understanding by the community, and there's others outside the community that don't like what we're doing. And I feel hopeful hearing from everybody here today that we are going to follow the plan that everybody has voted for. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, you go forward. Have a wonderful afternoon and a peaceful weekend. Thank you so much for all the work you do together and helping people in the community. You are truly leaders, and you're setting the stage for people to be more involved in their community. And I think that's especially important right now when people feel a bit isolated. So
don't forget Bill.
Oh, Bill, sorry. Gosh, darn it. Okay, Bill, what's your one word?
Yeah, I guess I would have to say that the thing that makes me most enthused is that we lost two powerhouse people, and the three people that we just put in place, I'm hugely enthused about. And that is a dynamic organization, an organization that can lose that kind of horsepower and still keep on pumping, makes me really happy and proud. So thanks you guys for stepping up and not only to get elected, but today in the activities. So yeah, this is going to be good. Thanks. Thanks.
I'd like to thank Amy for putting up with us. Thank you, Amy, for putting up with us.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm just really impressed with this group year after year after year. And you're able to attract people and continue to work on the vision and the plan and just, hold the faith and the hope that things will keep moving forward. And you do it year after year. So good for you. It's fun to watch, and I think it's awesome. All right. Any other final comments, or shall we let you go? It's almost a quarter after. So thanks for that. Maybe we can just say it's because we took a couple of breaks that weren't planned. Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. Have a good weekend.